All right, folks, let's do the new moon in Leo video. Today is August the 8th. The new moon for me here in Los Angeles occurred in the early hours of the morning. I'll put the exact time when I do the title. I think it was 6:08 a.m. Pacific time. It is now a little after 4 p.m. Pacific time, and as you know, I do my new moon videos after the new moon. The rulership of this new moon is very straightforward. A new moon is the conjunction between the sun and the moon. The sign of Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun is in Leo. The sun is the ruler of this new moon and the dispositor of the chart. Great. The sun is in the sign that it rules. And so the chart now is infused for the next 4 weeks with an appropriately Leonine energy. Of course, Leo being the sign of the lion. But more importantly, I really like to think of Leo as a fixed sign that is actively engaged in, like other fixed signs, preserving what it loves. When I was thinking about the title of this video, the word charge came to mind, but the word charge can be deceptive because charging can mean, bring out your sword and charge something. It can imply speed. It can imply ferocity. And that's not the kind of charge that came to mind. The charge that came to mind is the lighting of a match. The charge that came to mind is the charge that ignites a car or a vehicle as you turn the key. This new moon changes the order of the new moons and the full moons. As we've headed to it, the full moon occurs before the corresponding new moon. So the full moon, let's say if we'd look at a new moon occurring in Cancer, the full moon in Capricorn occurred before the new moon in Cancer. A more natural flow, some would say, I don't like to use the word natural here, would be that the new moon in Cancer would happen first. The moon grows 14 days later in the opposite sign of Capricorn, and then we have the next new moon in Leo, and then the full moon in Aquarius, and so on and so forth. As we've headed to this new moon in Leo, the full moons in the corresponding signs have occurred first, and indeed some of the personal planets have made their transits through the sign where the full moon is occurring first, so that by the time the new moon occurs, the signs that the new moon is going to occur in, the sign that the new moon is going to occur in, has been hosting the transits. I'm going to just say that again. So the full moons in a corresponding sign have been occurring first, and the personal planets, some of the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the Sun, have been transiting the sign where the new moon would occur before the new moon. And what that has been doing for us so far, which is an energy I quite like, even though some people may consider it unnatural, is that the crisis and the action and the turmoil and the pot stirring in the sign where a new moon is to occur occurs before the new moon, so that then when the new moon occurs, after the full moon has occurred in the corresponding sign, after maybe some of the personal planets have made their transits through the sign where the new moon is going to occur, then when the new moon occurs, it gives you 4 weeks of sorting out everything that has come up. A more normal, natural approach is a new moon occurs, 14 days later corresponding full moon occurs, and then 14 days later you have the next new moon. And the order is let's just say it's more logical, it's more structured. And so this new moon starts a cycle where you have the new moon first in Leo and then the full moon in the opposing sign of Aquarius on August the 22nd. It is also an important new moon because it is sandwiched between 2 full moons in Aquarius. It is at this fulcrum point, this inflection point, which is we had the full moon in Aquarius first, we have the Leo new moon, and because this Leo new moon switches the order of new moons and full moons, the next full moon is going to occur in Aquarius. We have 2 Aquarius full moons, the sign where we're hosting Saturn and Jupiter. And I have talked so much about the importance of the sign Aquarius. Regular viewers, if I start talking about it again, are just going to cry uncle. So I will not do it again. But the sign of Aquarius is extremely important this year because you're hosting, I'm doing it, an auspicious new beginning, a 12 or 13-year cycle, ending and beginning. And that becomes really important when we get to this full moon on the 22nd, because that full moon is conjunct Jupiter retrograde back in Aquarius after spending a couple of months in Pisces to finish the work during the rest of this year to create this ending and new beginning. But at the same time, we also have Saturn in Aquarius, requiring us to act in ways that are good for us, better for us, and create something long-lasting wherever the sign of Aquarius sits in our charts. The full moons are important. They tell a story. The other thing that I mentioned in the video I did yesterday, which is very relevant to this video, and I'll place a link to it at the end of this one once I'm done processing this video, is that we're in the middle of a series of oppositions to the outer planets. We've had oppositions to Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, and indeed after Neptune, as the planets move into Libra, they're going to oppose Chiron. And then when they move into Scorpio, they're going to oppose Uranus. So there is a certain amount of staring down, showing the middle finger to, protecting and balancing the nature of the change that is occurring by the personal planets. So the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, one by one, take on these heavy hitters that are creating longer lasting change and play this dance of self-preservation against the changes that sort of fate has ordained, or taking certain steps that facilitate that change, or illuminating that change to be able to better understand what is happening and know where we need to take action, where we need to defend ourselves, where we need to communicate something, where we need to build relationships. Okay, so the two important transits at the time of this new moon are an opposition between Venus and Neptune, which I talked about yesterday, and Mars, the planet of action and defense, the hunter-gatherer planet. Go after what you want, your vitality, your testosterone, your male energy that goes after goals and goes to hunt and gather, and is also the defender and the protector. It also fights. It can also be aggressive. It can also assert boundaries. It can also be assertive. It can stand up for us. It can give us the energy, again, as the male planet, to attack or defend. Mars, the red planet, the short-tempered planet, the energetic planet where our energy is, squares the nodes, the next level of our development and fated changes. Part of the reason why the Gemini eclipse is featuring so strongly at this time, and I've done a video on this yesterday, so I'm not going to expand on it too much here, is not only that it's 2 months after the solar eclipse, which I always find an important marker, but also because Mars is squaring the nodes, which are the points in the sky that denote where the eclipses will occur. So either we have to take, because Mars is in Virgo, some sort of structured activity towards our goals, and the nodes are waiting on us to do so, or, you know, with a square, I've often said it's two sets of energies locking and requiring something to break that tension. And Mars is faster moving than the nodes, and so it is going to have to do its business, whether it is the pursuit of goals, the undertaking of organizing activities. With Mars in Virgo, it really, I mean, it is sort of the, where's my spreadsheet, where's my to-do list, where is my sense of what needs to happen next, how am I organizing and structuring my life effectively, and what actions am I taking to do so. And somewhere there's a conversation between our need, I was going to say ability, our need to take action to bring organization and structure in our lives and in the execution of our day-to-day tasks. It could be pursuit of goals. It could be service. Virgo is a sign of service. It could be caretaking. It could be somewhere our future, whatever it is that is coming in from the sign of Gemini, and whatever it is that the future is bringing us, is either dependent on this, but with Mars in Virgo, it could also be a need to defend where Virgo sits in our chart, because there may be a certain tension between where the eclipses are occurring in Gemini and where Virgo sits in our chart. It's a Leo new moon, but the sign of Virgo is important because both Venus and Mars are in Virgo, and both Venus and Mars are the planets that are creating important aspects at the time of this new moon. So where does Virgo sit in your chart? What house does it occupy, and what does that house stand for? There is action that needs to be taken there. There's a certain amount of defending and self-defense that needs to be taken there. Also because of Venus, the planet of our relationships, our money, our values, opposes Neptune, which has been creating havoc in Pisces for us, and loss going back to, as I've said before, crises in 2015, 2016, and somewhere these Gemini eclipses have really featured strongly with issues related to gaslighting or things not being clear and straightforward, and delusion or thievery or deceit, And the Venus opposing Neptune is really important because typically deceit and gaslighting occurs when it comes to our relationships or our money. And Venus is the planet that deals with both. And in Virgo, Venus is not exactly happy in Virgo. Virgo's very structured, very meticulous, Venus is a planet of flow and relaxed, passive attraction, and it's not a planet that she's not a planet that is associated with rolling up one's sleeves and getting the work done in an extremely structured and organized way. And Virgo is, of course, a sign where that is what the sign of Virgo is about. So it's a slightly uncomfortable transit, but wherever Venus is, she does have a tendency to bring blessings and a sense of abundance, or a gift, an opportunity, some luck. Sometimes Venus operates very much the way we expect Jupiter to operate, which is that it's the Venus transit that creates palpable ease. The money comes in, a relationship comes in, an opportunity comes in, a little bit of bounty comes in, some peace comes in, right? Some relationship harmony comes in. But somewhere there's a stare down between our relationships, our money, our values, how we value ourselves, what we value in our relationships, where we place our value in terms of our ability to attract abundance, where we place our value with regard to where we spend money. There could also be spending wherever Virgo is in your chart. And somewhere there's a bit of a stare down, not a bit of a stare down, there's a stare down between our values and this crisis that has been brewing since 2015, 2016, where there's a gift being prepared for us next year that is somehow under threat by Geminian forces. And by Geminian forces, I do not mean people who have strong Gemini placements in their chart. I mean where Gemini sits in your chart, what house it occupies, and what people or forces are signified by that house. So it has less to do with the sign of Gemini per se, and more to do with the house that Gemini occupies. Okay? So it's a new moon that provides this inflection point. And because the eclipse that is highlighted at this point in time was conjunct Mercury retrograde, as I mentioned yesterday, there's a lot of emphasis on exhaustion, about themes that have been continuing for a while now that we want to complete and release and perhaps defend. This, as I said, is the inflection point that ends the old and opens and creates the new. And we may well look back to August 2021 as looking at it as a turning point where internal decisions got made, our values got aligned in such a sense that we determined and decided where we would take action, what we would protect, what was important to us, and how we would then structure our own compass, our own Rosetta Stone, our own uh, touchstone with regard to how we're going to interact with all these fated changes that seem to be happening around us. Issues related to defending and protection in this kind of polka game theme that has been going on since Mercury entered Gemini are important. You can go back to all the videos since Mercury and Gemini video and you'll find the narrative developing there. I'm not going to develop it here. But there's also, with these two Aquarius full moons and this Leo new moon sitting in the middle of them, there's also the idea that we are claiming our power back. There's a charge with finally acknowledging the exhaustion and the ending and having the energy to move towards the new. And there's a balance that is being reset between, so far, having the chaos occur first and the new moon occur later, to having the new moon occur first, chart the course, go after what we want, and let the results kind of happen as they may. Have the full moon occur 2 weeks after the new moon, as it should, and have the personal planets be directed by the new moon, as opposed to having the new moon react to the personal planets in the full moon that preceded it, which is the energy that we have been in. So the charge is an internal charge of having had it with certain things and moving forward towards things that we want and we like and desire. And our values and what we value play a very important role right now in helping us determine and pull out this compass and determine where we're going to go. Some of what we value is dependent on what is happening around us. What we value can change depending on what is happening with our loved ones, what is happening at home, what is happening external. We may say that right now this is what is important to us and this is how we're going to construct things. It's, when we talk about going after what we want, we're so career driven as a society that can very much play a role in wherever it is that we're going, but that also has to fit into an overall picture. So what is it that is going to create, through what we value, a sense of abundance and ease and flow and assistance? We are talking about Venus and Mars being in the sign of Virgo. So the idea of the execution of our day-to-day tasks and being of service to others in doing so has a certain importance and prominence, even though this is a Leo new moon. But ultimately what this comes down to is having the charge to affect some of the important lessons that we need to incorporate in the sign of Aquarius. Why? Because Leo is the sign that opposes Aquarius, and this new moon occurs between two full moons in Aquarius. The last full moon declares more about what we're going to make and what we're going to break, what we're going to leave behind, what we're done with. And this next full moon conjunct Jupiter invites us to move towards creating that something new. And so we get to sit in this place of saying, I am now done and I've had enough of these energies, and we know what these are, and some of these are linked with the eclipse. And so, as I said yesterday, all the transits in our chart are telling an integrated tale right now. You can, if you know how to read your chart, know exactly what is going on where the sign of Leo is, and Virgo is, and Capricorn is with Pluto there, and Aquarius with Jupiter and Saturn there, and Pisces with Neptune there, and Chiron with Aries there, and Taurus where Uranus is, and be able to see exactly how these energies are dovetailing. And ultimately it all comes down to this question with the Uranus-Saturn square around where does Aquarius sit in your chart? What house does it occupy? And what are the key lessons that you need to learn? Because it is the execution of those key lessons and not falling into the path of least resistance. And there may be some element of what you need to face, what you need to protect, what you need to prevent, because over the past 28 years, that is how long it takes Saturn to come back to where it was before, you have been dealing with or exhibiting or acting along the lines of certain behaviors and patterns that were there because of who you have been, but now need to be reformed and changed because they are no longer serving you. And so they're self-defeating. And so Saturn is here to say, I'm here to teach you not to do this, and this is what you need to do in order to better create what needs to be created, and that is going to liberate you in order to move forward towards a path that is more authentic. And so this Leo new moon and this charge gives you the charge to continue on that journey. So the advice that I will give you, of course, right now is, if there are ways in which you have behaved that affect where Aquarius sits in your chart, that you can tell are past behaviors and patterns that are creating discomfort, try to understand what Saturn is teaching you there with regard to what actions you need to take that will create a better and a stronger foundation that puts you first and your priorities first and what you would consider would make a fulfilling life for you first. And it may well be a different way, a stronger way, a more powerful way of approaching something that over the past 28 years you may have approached in a less powerful way. Okay, I hope you found this video useful. Like it, share it, comment on it. The likes and the comments, I can give it more circulation on YouTube. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button. It'll tell you when I do my new videos. And my contact information is in the description box, so you can use that email address to contact me for rates related to readings, and also if you want to inquire. Sorry, I'm having a very sort of, the new moon is kind of close to Mercury. It might be a call for me to communicate in a more leonine fashion. Certainly there's a call to be a little bit more articulate. So and you can also inquire about, I create easy to read versions of charts that tell you which signs are in which houses and which planets are in which houses and what that kind of stands for in a brief and a succinct way. So you can inquire about rates by using that email address below. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. It's time to retire a certain type of energy. And it's time to move forward towards constructing what you want. And it always is, but that statement is going to feel more resonant right now. And only you can tell where it is that you know what is it that needs to be retired or let go of or removed, or, and it's always a bittersweet process, you know, this kind of thing, or, and where it is that you feel that your happiness lies. And let the charge of this Leo new moon, this Leonine, this protective, this effulgent, this starry, and I mean star by seeking the limelight kind of energy, propel you towards making decisions that feel right about what it is that needs to be retired and what it is, and what it is that needs to be embraced. Okay? It's funny, I was holding my cat's nail clippers, and of course cats are leonine creatures, or can be in some ways. It's just bizarre that it was kind of sitting here and I was playing with it while I was doing this video. All right, probably a sign that I should cut his nails too. Until the next video. Thanks.